I'm going to quickly introduce our workshop leaders for this session dealing with creative block as an artist or creative. So we have the amazing Renike, popularly known as Renike. So sorry, I'm trying to admit folks as we speak. Renike is an award-winning visual and book cover artist and illustrator. Definitely not going to be able to share the extensive work she has done, but we have descriptions to it. But she's an amazing and award-winning visual and book. My audio is breaking up. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try it again. My internet is a bit spotty, so that could be the reason. I'm gonna try that again. So thanks, Renike, for pointing that out. So we have Renike in the house. She's an award-winning visual and cover and illustrator. And she has done a lot of work focused on presenting Black women in soft and subtle art. And we also have the amazing Gozie Ubi. She's a multi-dimensional artist who practices involving and utilizing multiple materials to depict stories influenced by personal and societal experiences. So a lot of our work reflects exploring the human aspect of life, including body beauty standards, gender roles, mental health, and the pursuit of self-acceptance. So we have these two amazing artists today that are sharing with us how to deal with creative work as an artist and creative. So I'm going to pass it over to Renike and Chigozie to take it away. We're very excited and looking forward to this session. So the format is following their presentation or their talk. We're going to have opportunity for questions. And so let's all enjoy and learn from the two of them. So thanks, Renike and Chigozie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's nice to virtually meet you. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and a huge shout out to Lights for organizing this and bringing all of us together to talk about this topic that affects us all and affects us in different ways and affects creatives and artists in also different ways. I feel like the topic is very important because it's very common. It's something that a lot of creatives and a lot of artists go through from time to time, sometimes every month, sometimes a few times a month, sometimes a few times a year, sometimes for a whole year. So I feel like a lot of people have to, or a lot of artists, or a lot of platforms or events like this should be put together to happen, should happen so that we can share how we deal with things like this, our experiences, and everything that affects us as artists, including this. So first of all, I think we have like a guideline or a list that we're going to follow, and we're going to try to also personalize it, so we don't sound like we're reading off some article on Google. We feel like when we personalize it, then it's more human to personalize it. And we found that a lot of people are able to relate when we tell our stories about how we've experienced these things and how we've dealt with it in the long run. So first of all, I'd like to clear like a slight misconception. So people usually think that creative blocks are the same as being burnt out. Chigozie and I feel like being burnt out is it's more general, and having creative blocks are more specific to your creativity. There are things or there are moments or feelings that attack your creativity in particular. Being burnt out might affect your life as a whole. So you can be burnt out as a person, maybe from working or from like being too emotionally or experiencing a lot of emotional trauma and all of that. Or just living as a human in general in this world. Like you can just be burnt out as a human, adult human in this world. You can just be burnt out. But creative blocks attack your creativity in particular, in the sense that you are unable to create, you're unable to execute ideas, even if you have ideas. Sometimes you start projects and you're unable to finish it because you just feel like nothing is coming. Like, so you're on a standstill and you're just unable to be an artist. Personally, I would always say that anytime I experience creative blocks, I feel like I'm paralyzed, in the sense that I am an artist. Creating is what I do. It's supposed to be easy for me. Why can't I create? It's like I have hands, I can't use them. I have a brain, nothing is working. And we know how feelings like that can be very detrimental to our health and our value, how we see ourselves as artists or creatives. So that's my definition of what a creative block is. I'm going to hand over to Chigozie to tell us what her definition is.
Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. Can everyone hear me? Cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah, cool. So yeah, it's just like what Morenike said. Creative blocks are honestly they meet you at like any point. You can never say when they're gonna come. Like you can never prepare for it, or you can never like, you know, just be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do this and in ahead of this. It meets you at times that you're not even expecting. It could meet you when you even have like so many deadlines, and just like mess up your whole timing. And feeling burnt out is also a bit different from that, because that is just can be way more severe in a way, and can just also leave you paralyzed, just as Morenike says, but like even worse. So, and we're talking earlier actually about how creative blocks are not necessarily like a bad thing. Like they can still be something that makes you do other things that you've not really explored before. So in my own definition, it's just like creative blocks, they leave you stagnant, they leave you very paralyzed, they leave you very, feeling a bit weird and just like, oh my God, what am I doing in my life? I've been an artist for a long time. Why can't I like now not create anything? Meanwhile, like just being burnt out is just like, gosh, I literally just can't even do anything. And sometimes it just passes more than even just your art, but just like generally you can't like do anything like at all. So yeah, those are my definitions and like the differences. Quite similar to what Morenike said actually. And we're gonna just like continue. Should I continue with saying what we're gonna talk about? Okay. And then from there, we're just gonna talk about like times that we've experienced creative block, so that just as Morenike said, we're going to personalize it and tell you about our own experiences. I will start by saying that I am going through creative block right now. Literally, I have not done work, like proper work, in like a month plus, because I have just not been motivated to like do anything. And it's funny because I have been doing so much work like throughout the whole year. And I thought I was going to just like, continue to be on a roll. I've experienced creative blocks before, of course, but I thought I was just going to like, continue to be on a roll. But then I traveled, and I know that also something that affects me sometimes with like my creative block is traveling, because sometimes when I travel and I come back, I feel a bit destabilized, like I need to settle back in a home. And I've been trying to do that, but at the same time, I just literally have not been able to like pick up my brush or like my pencil or anything and just like get back into work. So it's like, even as we speak, like, and I think sometimes people think that, maybe when you get to a certain stage in your career, or like when you've done like certain things, you might not be experiencing creative block as much or even like at all. But then it just shows that like, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've achieved, no matter how many things you've done, no matter how many deadlines you may even have, creative blocks is like, it doesn't wait for anybody. Like it's not something that you can really prepare yourself for. It just happens. And I want Morenike to talk about like sometimes that she's experienced it as well before we continue.
Thanks for sharing, Chigozie. Like what Chigozie said, I'd like to just add to what Chigozie said about experiencing artists or creative blocks. It's very normal to go through these things. And as long as you're a creative in this life, you are going to experience a creative block one way or the other. It's not something that you can escape, and it's part of the package. And the earlier you accept that it's not something you can really run away from, the
Yeah.
easier it is for you to deal with it in the long run. So for me, I
Mhm.
feel like different things affect or cause my creative blocks. Can be maybe I'm just not in the right headspace emotionally. It might be I've been working on commissions for too long and I just need rest. It might be that I need to switch up mediums. Like I've been painting with maybe digitally for so long, and my mind and entire being is just bored with that, and I need to paint traditionally or with like watercolors and all of that. So what I would usually do when I'm experiencing these blocks is that I try to self-reflect. I tend to self-reflect a lot as an artist. And I feel like as artists, sometimes I know we sit with ourselves and we tend to be very self-absorbed sometimes, but I think we can try to sit and think about the sources of such blocks, of why you're feeling this way, what might be causing it. For women, if it's hormones, maybe like it's close to your period or something, because like you'd be shocked that these things affect how productive you are as a woman, as a woman artist. So what I do is that I sit with my block. When I was younger, I used to fight it a lot and just be like, oh my goodness, I'm a failure. Why can't I create? So I used to fight it a lot and everything. But now I sit with it and I'm like, okay, so what's happening? Why do I feel this way? What have I been doing over the past couple of weeks? Have I been busy? Am I carrying a lot of heavy load emotionally? Am I fighting with my friends? Is there conflict somewhere in my life? Because all of these things for me affect how creative I am. I'm usually not able to compartmentalize when it comes to things like this. So for me to be at my best creative space or state, everything in my life has to be like aligned, right? And I have to have like some peace of mind. So I usually sit down and then I try to navigate through my life, what I've done over the past few weeks, what's causing this, what's not causing this. And the moment I identify it, I just solve the problem in that line. So if it's that maybe I'm experiencing PMS, I maybe rest some more, do a bit of yoga, try to relax, do other things that I like. One thing that I do when I experience creative blocks is that I stay away from art. Or when I experience artist blocks, sometimes you just can't force it. So I drop my pencil, I drop my iPad, and I run the other way. I hang out with my friends, I hang out with family. I'm a huge fan of Korean dramas or K dramas. So I watch K dramas, I do more admin work because I'm a freelancer. And I just do other things apart from art. I find that when I take myself away from art, I miss it and then I run back. So that works. That's what works for me. At other times, like I said, I may be just fatigued from doing so much work. I communicate to clients sometimes that, okay, this is what's happening. I'm experiencing a creative block. Can we move the deadline forward? Because I'm currently not able to create at the moment and I want to give you the best work. You'd feel like you think that when you express and when you're vulnerable with your clients and communicate with your clients, that's if you're an artist that takes commissions. I know it's easy to think that you feel like your clients will look at you as unserious or they won't take you seriously. But I feel like these things, people can relate to it in different ways. And when you explain to them that if I don't take a break or if I don't extend this deadline, you will not get the best work from me. When they see how it affects the kind of work you create for them, they are more understanding about your creative blocks and everything. So I think that's like just a summary of what I tend to do or what I do when I'm in such a space and everything. So Chigozie will tell us what she does and how she's currently tackling her creative block and if it's working.
So actually one funny thing that Morenike said I'm going to pick on is um, that she creates her best work when she's aligned. So sometimes I'm kind of the opposite of that. I think some of my best works are created sometimes when my life is just like in shambles, because a lot of my work um, reflects on what I'm feeling personally. So sometimes when I'm like very emotional, or like when I'm very sad, or like when I'm going through like a very difficult time, I can channel that into my work and, create like, I was like, whoa, okay, now put this all into the canvas and it's like, it's really speaking. And I think sometimes actually when I experience creative block is when things are quite okay in my life. Like I don't really have like any issues. I'm quite zen. I'm just like everything feels okay right now. I don't necessarily feel like I want to work, or my mind just feels like too relaxed that I can't even think of, I want to work, but like my mind is just like chill, like literally just like chill. There's nothing here for you to do. My body's like, yeah, I'm not feeling this right now, like just relax. And as opposed, of course, also having that like when there's also deadlines. But it was just funny because again, it just shows like it can come in different places and to different people. Something that I do to help with my creative block. So just like Morenike said, first of all, sit with it. Honestly, you just need to sometimes go through what might be making you feel this way. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling, whelmed? Are you feeling like, okay, what exactly is it? And sometimes you might be able to pinpoint it. Just like I said, I know that some of this now is because I traveled and so I'm still settling back at home. But sometimes you're not able to. And so just like Morenike also, I push away from work. I'm a very big advocate of artists doing things outside arts. I do not believe that, I mean, I'm sure like artists can do it, but like personally, I do not believe that my journey as an artist or me being an artist defines my person. I make it a very, very important thing in my life to find other things apart from art to do, just so that art does not consume me. And so that when I also have difficult times like this, I'm able to switch to other things that I enjoy. So of course, I going out with friends, trying another thing. Like Monica said, it's also even in mediums as well. So just like if you work with different materials, like sometimes I might not be able to work on canvas or I might not be able to work with oil. So what do? I switch to watercolor. I do digital paintings. In the span of all this time now, I've not been able to do anything traditional. But in this span also, I also finished an animation I've been working on since last year rather. So in that sense, like that was also having creative work, but like tackling it with like another medium. What else do I do? Sometimes I literally just close my studio door. I'm literally not going inside here, like at all. And sometimes something I actually do is I go to my studio, especially when I have deadlines. I go and I press paints on like my palettes and I press out like a lot. And I'm like, I know you're going to feel bad if this paint wastes right now. So you're going to press this paint on your canvas. You don't know, you're not feeling like doing anything, but by the time you watch like the paint dry and dry and dry, you're going to pick up the paint and do something. And sometimes it's work, so it's like literally just forcing myself to work. And sometimes it's work. So all in all, it's just all of that. But I think at the end of the day, I also just give myself time. Like honestly, I give myself time. Sometimes as artists, thankfully I have the grace of having time sometimes. Like currently right now, I don't have any pressing deadlines. So I do have like a good like month or two before I really have to get back in. So I just give myself that time to just like relax. And the guilt can be so immense. Like the guilt literally can just be like every day I have tried, I've not been able to, and I just feel like, oh my God, I'm literally doing like nothing with my life, right now. But I don't let that guilt like try to consume me too much because it's not going to help you at the end of the day. The only thing you're going to end up feeling is like just worse. And there's no need for you to do that. Like just being an artist is already hard enough. You don't need to be too hard on yourself as well. Um, so yeah, that is part of the things I do. And also I wanted to say that something that I think causes it as well is we're going to but not speak extensively on it is imposter syndrome. And we're talking about this earlier about how like personally sometimes when I suffer from imposter syndrome from like time to time. So when I see like other people's work that I think is like, oh, they're doing so well and stuff like that, especially when I'm not able to work, it makes me feel bad sometimes. And it makes me feel like okay, I can't really create because I don't really feel inspired right now. I don't really feel like I'm doing anything new. I don't really feel like blah blah blah. And something that helps me like get out of that is just like maybe going through my Instagram, like my older works, all the works I've been doing for a while. When I see the journey that I have been on, and when I see things I've been creating, sometimes it inspires me. Sometimes I also even see like old works, like or series that I have left off that I feel like I want to pick up and continue. And that gives me like a new sense of inspiration, which helps with my creative block. So yeah, just things like that help me out. So the next thing we're going to move on
Hold
to.
on, I want to add to what
Yeah.
you're saying because I feel like we've spoken about experiencing creative blocks as freelancers. So I wanted to address people that work 9 to 5s and are also creatives. Because I've had like a great good portion of both because I worked in 9 to 5 for 3 years, then became a freelancer. I also want to share things that I wish I did when I was burnt out as a creative working in 9 to 5. Then I did not. I started to learn how to do these things towards the end of my 9 to 5 era. So I'm just going to share that with you because when you're working in 9 to 5, you don't have the luxury of a freelancer to just be like, I'm not taking any more work. I'm putting a hold on work and I'm just going to sit in this block and figure
Yeah.
it out. Because you have to go
Yeah.
to work the next day. And if you're not working, then your income is not sure. Like you can get queried and all of that. So if you work a 9 to 5 and you're going through creative blocks, or if you work in 9 to 5 and you go through artist blocks, I feel like the first thing you should do is take your weekends seriously. Um, if if there is rest time, rest during that time, right? Try your best. If you're a workaholic like me, we struggle with resting, but try your best to just close your laptop, close your computers. Don't take office work home. Try your best not to take office work home. Work at work, or if there is more people are working more from home now, stay away from your the section of your house where you do the most work. Like just cover your eyes, right? Or tell your friend or tell your partner or whoever you're living with to hide your laptop. Like I feel like you have to be that extreme sometimes because rest is so important. I feel like the source of creative blocks for people that work 9 to 5 is extreme fatigue. So if you're able to prioritize your rest and you're able to, just be kinder to yourself, right? During times of rest, you'll be able to ease through creative blocks and ease out of it. Another thing is setting boundaries at work, where you know that people know that you are not reachable during this period of time, no matter what. No matter what. I know setting boundaries for people can be very difficult to do, right? But when people know that, oh, this girl is not going to respond to my mail from 5 p.m. on Friday, then they know not to message you or email you like after that time. Or when they're emailing, they know that they are not going to get a response. So you won't get complaints that would make you feel like you are not like working well or you're not being efficient at work. So setting boundaries and prioritizing your rest works for 9 to 5ers or work for 9 to 5ers who are creatives.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've never had a 9 to 5, but definitely I agree. I see people that struggle with that, and yeah, I mean, they're trying very much so. Um, so we're going to talk about. So one thing we're actually doing. This is more of just like it's. We said it kind of before, but like extensively. Just talking about how creative blocks do not affect you as an artist. So this is like a very. I think this is a thing that again all of us struggle with. It's something that you think like again like I said before, some people think that just because you've reached a certain point in like your career or like you've done certain things you cannot experience like creative blocks or even those artists don't experience the feelings of like insecurity that come with creative blocks. But that is not true. Like honestly, so we had an event because we have a collective and we had an event the past I think last Saturday or last 2 weeks Saturday, and we had some other artists on the panel and they were just talking about one of them just had an exhibition like his first solo exhibition, and he was talking about how like now there was like a pressure to follow up after the exhibition, like okay, what do I do like after this and what am I going to like people I know people are looking at me now and people are expecting like okay, what is the next thing he's going to do and all of that. And that kind of made me feel like I related to that so much because after like I had my own first solo as well at Artex, there at some point like like after that I went through like a whole like point of creative block. I couldn't create anything. And I kind of felt like really bad because I knew that like people were gonna be like, okay, now she's done this. and like this was like a very big like achievement. But what is she going to do after? And at some point, and at that point, I just like had nothing. Like, I was just like, not even thinking about anything and not able to think about anything. And that made me feel bad. But I also felt comforted in the fact that this other artist also felt this. And, I could relate to that. And after a while, of course, like after I felt the creative block, after a while, I got like a burst of like inspiration. And I was working like so much. That was like at the beginning of the year up till now, which I'm experiencing my second phase of creative block. I feel like I have like 4 or like 5 in like the year. Um, but just saying this and just to say that like it literally doesn't matter. Like you do not, as in you don't have to be anything. You can be an artist just starting off. You can be an artist that has had like 20 years experience in your career. Could be like anything. Like creative block does not, it doesn't have like an age grade or like a um or like a limit to anybody or like any age or any type of artistry or even like people generally. And so things I like to do to like remind myself of that, I like to affirm myself. I find affirmations, I'm not like a spiritual person or anything, but I do believe in affirmations, like actively telling myself that like, look, what I'm going through right now does not affect what I am as an artist. Like I look back, I like reflect on what I've achieved, I reflect on what I've done, I reflect on the ideas I have had, and I reflect on the ideas that I do have. And one thing I do is I always pen down, like when I have like any art ideas I have like my notes app on my phone. I always write them down because just because I'm not able to work on it right now doesn't mean I won't be able to work on it later. And sometimes when I'm experiencing creative block as well, I go back to them and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I had this idea. And like that gives me like a burst of inspiration for me to start working again. But generally, just like it does not affect who you are as an artist, like literally. Just we have to say that to you and we have to say that to yourself as well. Like every day wake up, whenever you're going through your wake up and say to yourself, when you're not going through it, also say to yourself, it's very, very important to remind yourself of that.
Yes, I completely agree with Chigozie because while we are having the conversation before we came online here, we felt that it was a very, very important thing to mention to artists that your ability or non-ability to create during a specific period of time, which can, be the period of time can be 1 week, can be 1 year, it can be 2 years. There are artists that don't create for 5 years and then they drop a banger. The fact that they are not creating over that period of time does not make them less, you know, who they are as artists. The fact that you are not creating during a specific period of time does not diminish your value as an artist. It does not diminish your contribution to the art community. It does not mean that, I mean, just look at Beyonce for example. I love Beyonce, right? And Beyonce starves us, right? She drops an album and then disappears for God knows when, and then she drops another album and disappears. And you never hear people say that because Beyonce has not released new music in years, she's not Beyonce. She's still Beyonce. She's still an amazing singer and performer. She's still the Grammy Award winner. She's still who she is. So the fact that you're not creating or you're experiencing creative blocks, over a period of time, I know it can feel really bad and it can feel like I'm so useless, I'm not creating and all of that. It does not mean you are not an artist anymore. It just means, you're an artist going through life. It's creative blocks are not the enemy. I feel like sometimes creative blocks, they bring you back to reality. Like, hey, calm down. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Try other things. Pick up other hobbies, hang out with your friends, call your loved ones, be present, live life. Because we artists, we tend to bury ourselves in our works sometimes, and we're just in our studios for weeks. We're not seeing sunlight, right?
Yeah.
And then, they're like creative blocks. They are not the enemy. I feel like they snap us back to reality, and I think we should be grateful to them from time to time. It's like it's a love-hate. We should have love-hate relationships with creative blocks. I don't think we should hate them. I think,
Yeah.
they feel bad, but let's try to look at the positives of experiencing creative blocks instead of always focusing on like the negative parts of it. Like Chigozie said,
Oh.
what do you want to say something?
No, I wanted to add to the positives you're talking about. Like some of the positives I've had in this period is that I've been able to hang out with people more because I have time. I've been sleeping more because I always work like usually when I work like through the nights and then I'm not sleeping through the day. So now I'm just like, oh well, I'm not working or anything. So I've been sleeping more. And I've literally just had time to like relax. I think my skin is doing better. Like everything is just like so just like listing some of the positives that I've gotten in this time that I've been taking a break. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you feel like you've not figured out ways to deal with your creative blocks, you can try, the ways of other artists. Like me, you can run the opposite direction. You see a pencil, you run the opposite direction. You see a brush, you look at the brush and be like, no, and then you run away from it because that's what I do and it works for me.
Yeah.
You can also like watch movies and you'd be shocked to realize that sometimes when you're not paying attention to art, sometimes when you're not creating, you are absorbing inspiration from other sources, right? When you think
Mm,
you're just watching movies, you're just watching animation, but you're getting inspired, you're learning lighting, you're learning emotions, you're learning life experiences from these things that along like you see yourself creating things when you finally get like you're finally able to start creating, you see yourself creating things in line with all the things you learned or absorbed when you were taking a break.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that's all. Do you have any other things to add?
I just wanted to say that just this, yeah, like what you said last reminded me of, and this is even a lesson to myself because I know that a lot of things like I know that I mostly struggle with sometimes with like reading about art or like watching things of like on arts. My attention span is not like that great, but like also it's like really just because you're experiencing creative block in like making work doesn't mean you have to experience creative block in like getting knowledge about work. So in that time you could do your research. In that time you could like write, like you can think about like ideas you want to execute. Maybe not now, but later you can think of, okay, how can I do other things that are different or like materials that I want to use in my work if you like want to work with like mixed media or stuff. So yeah, like it's really not the enemy. It's not instead of seen as the enemy, see it as a good thing. It's a very much needed break. Like breaks are so important, and I feel like sometimes we as artists definitely underestimate the power of breaks. So it's just like your body. There's this saying, it's like when you're about to like when you're overworking and people are like um if you don't rest your body will rest for you. It's kind of like just like that saying, like it's because sometimes we tend to not take breaks. We take so much work, everything. Sometimes your body and your brain will just be like, look, I'm done. Like you might not be done, but me, I'm done. So either you rest or that. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Renike and Chigozie. A virtual round of applause to them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking us through dealing with creative block. We really appreciate your transparency. I think for us, it might be different for everyone, but our creativity might be different. For some of us, it might be writing. And I think they're all similar. I think the takeaway for me personally was that is really not our enemy. I think for me, I've always seen blocks as enemies, but like you said, it might be the needed rest that we need to just reimagine and just rethink the way we do things, and also just to explore different things. And it's important for us to be kind to ourselves, give ourselves break, give ourselves grace, and go through the process. And also it will open up doors for us to approach our work differently. So thank you so much for this. We do have a few questions for you, but before I proceed, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions for Renike and Chigozie? If you have any questions for them? Any questions? Okay. Well, we see thank you, so we are grateful. So while we wait for questions, I'm going to check the chat periodically. I'm going to ask a few questions. They might seem off tangent, but I think it all comes back home to like what you do with art. I know you've taken us through dealing with writer's block. So it was very helpful to learn about like some of the challenges and then the positives, which was very insightful because it's different from the way that we typically think about creative block. Okay, Korede has a question. So have you ever found the change in environment to be helpful in dealing with creative block?
Like that's a really great question, Korede. I'm going to tell you something that I think only Chigozie and I know. So this is not even traveling or like leaving my space. It's taking my bed to the sitting room and sleeping there instead of instead of my bedroom. I feel like, and this is not this is about me being burnt out. Definitely, I think changing environment helps you with how burnt out you feel, and with creative blocks. Sometimes you need to leave your studio if you have the money. Put yourself in a hotel or in an Airbnb and create from there, and you'd realize that your exposure to a fresh setting, a fresh environment refreshes your mind, and you are able to create more and create better. So yes, absolutely. Changing your environment helps with creative blocks. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I agree. Something I do sometimes is I go to cafes. So I just leave my house because I find that my house sometimes makes me feel too comfortable. And my studio is in my house, so I might just find myself staying in bed for like so long, or like, staying in my couch for so long and just like watching TV. So I actively like, step outside. I take my iPad because I can't really like do traditional work. So I take my iPad and I go to a cafe and I go work there, or I go visit a friend and I go work there. Something I also do every time I'm traveling is I always pack like a sketch pad or like a painting pad or something. I might not work because I'm on vacation. I'm like, but I just carry it like just in case, because again, seeing like new places might inspire you. And you never know when you're gonna get the inspiration and want to work from there. So definitely, yeah, it does help. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Chigozie. Thanks, Renike, and thanks, Korede, for that question. So I'm going to proceed with my questions, but if there are other questions, please, you can raise your hands up. Feel free. Would love to get all the questions into them. Let's soak in all the knowledge from these people. I'm going to start. So in one word, what does describe art? What does it mean to you? And why does it matter for healing? I know that the two of you, your work is really very reflective of like your experiences and your community. So in one word, I guess, describe art and why that matters for you for healing.
Should I go? Okay. Art. Art to me is basically, art to me is everything. Like I will literally use everything, because my life, like my own personal life, I think started having meaning when I became an artist and when I started like practicing art. Art is expression. Like art is not just, it's why I always say like I think art is like a different type of career. Like while some people don't necessarily have to like their career to do it, I feel like to be an artist, you have to be very tied to it to create your work. Art is like a lot of things I paint about and like talk about the things that I am personally feeling. So it's just like I'm sharing a lot of what I'm feeling inside. I'm opening myself up. I'm being very vulnerable with like the public. And just like, sharing parts of me that are, some people might not even see, some people might have not heard about some things and then they see first in my art. So art is just like everything to me. It's like who I am, it's my being. It's very important for healing because for me, it's something that I do to just like, I let everything go. So sometimes when I'm feeling just overwhelmed, it's literally like I am taking it like just from like my chest and just like putting it on the canvas. And it literally helps me feel better because in a way I have, spoken about it, but like with paints, or like I have, taken it out of me and like shared it with something, but like with paint or like pencils or like whatever. And it also is a way of healing because it also makes me like see like what I'm going through, like in a physical sense. Sometimes like I know emotions are like mostly inner emotions and stuff like that. I know we like show emotions on our face as well. But as opposed, like let me say going to a mirror and like looking at myself and like seeing what I'm feeling, I have painted it out and I can sit in front of this painting and I can feel what I painted, and I can think about the process of what I painted, or like it can remind me of things. So in just that way, just like, sharing it and putting it out there, it's a step towards healing, because I am acknowledging it, I am processing it, I am sharing it, I'm talking about it, I am even hiding it and just keeping it to myself, but I am trying, like, processing it as opposed to just like ignoring it. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way about what Chigozie said about art. Art's contribution to healing, or how it helps with healing is that art's creating, when you create, you heal yourself. It's one way or the other, you're working on yourself and you're healing yourself. Um I'm going to share like a funny story, or just a snippet of a funny story about how I started as an artist. I was heartbroken. Yes, I'm one of those girls. I, I'm one of those girls that, that heartbreak pushed me to dig up my art skills and create. And that was how I became an artist.
Yeah.
And that process of just always, taking all of that energy and pouring it into these things, that some of them did not make sense, some of them made sense. The heaviness in my chest, the heartbreak and the pain and everything, it just evaporated. So art
Mhm.
is healing. I think that's just what it is. That's what art means to me, apart from the fact that art is my life. People always ask me that, oh, if you were not being an artist, like, if you were not an artist, what would you do? And I would just sit and be like, I have never seen myself as not being an artist. Like, I think I'm always just going to be an artist because it's my entire life. And they say things like, oh, if you were not painting for money, or if you did not need money, or if you were extremely wealthy and you did not need to work, what would you do? Just paint for fun. Like, I'm just going to always be an artist. And I feel like for you to use art as therapy, for you to use art to heal, you don't even have to be an artist. There's so many avenues for you to just pour out yourself, through pencils, through coloring books. I know that there are coloring books that help with anxiety and of art. You can sing, you can dance, you can write. Those are also forms of art. And that's how you can use art to, heal yourself, to, just take some things off your chest and try to live a more peaceful life. I think journaling should be categorized under art, because it's also expressing yourself through writing. So for me, art is everything, and art is healing.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, Chigozie and Renike, for sharing. So for you two, art is everything. And for you, Renike, you even started literally mending a broken heart. So that's beautiful. We're talking about healing. Literally, it did that. So thanks to you two for sharing that. And we've seen there are different mediums to which art, or different ways art can heal us, and there are different mediums. Like you mentioned, journaling. I think some of us might not see ourselves as creative, but it's just to show that there are different ways to be creative. Writing is one of it. And Renike, you started a little bit by alluding to this, sharing how you began with art, but the question is, like, you to take us back to the beginning. So why did you choose art over other mediums? So Renike, I know that this is all you can do, right? But if you can share a little bit more on like how this started for you two, that would be amazing.
So I think I just don't paint. I used to play an instrument. I used to play the saxophone. I've been a stage actor for a while. I've sang, I've modeled, I'm just an all-round artsy person. But art, like painting, and that's creating through my iPad and creating on canvas, has been one that I've been the most consistent with this particular medium. Because I found that it's just so broad. There is so much to learn when it comes to creating on canvas, or especially when you have the talent or the skill to be able to create, or to be able to illustrate and all of that. And I think me just finding out that, and me being curious about numerous things that I could learn and the numerous things that I could do with this, with the medium that I always use. I just decided this was what I was going to, stick with. And so far it's been going well. I guess I'm just more interested in using my hands as opposed to blowing the saxophone and standing in front of a crowd and acting or singing. I feel like because I'm more introverted, it's easier for me to just like I enjoy it more when I'm in one corner, not in front of an audience. I think that was how I started and that is why I am consistent, and I think why I am going to be consistent for this year.
How do I start off in arts? So the first time I really got into art was in secondary school, and that was just because I was really bad at like biology and math and like every other thing. But like art was like one of the things that like, I got like good grades in. I was really enjoying it as well. But even then I didn't think of it as like a thing to study because again in Nigeria, not a lot of parents encourage you to study arts. So the year before I got into my university, I was supposed to go for mass comm actually. But then there was like a strike in the school for like 6 months or something. So I started like just drawing and like, and like an aunt of mine and like a cousin of mine, they're like, oh, why don't you study this instead? And so they helped me talk to my dad about it. And he was like, fighting at first, but eventually he agreed for me to study it. But even then, it wasn't like a thing. It was just like, oh, I'm going to study arts. It was when I went for my IT in my third year, and I saw like I went to an artist studio to intern, and then I saw like actual artists like making money off art and like practicing art as like a full profession. That is when I was like, okay, this is something I can actually do. And that was the first time I really, really saw art as like a career like path. And so since then it's been like I sat up more, practicing more, everything. Why I picked arts over any other thing. Honestly, I really don't even know. I just feel like I connected most with it. I played piano in like secondary school, but it wasn't really like no, I mean, I didn't really enjoy music class as much as I did art, or like even like theater as well. I think there's a bit of like, I don't think I'm necessarily an introvert, but like I used to be way more introverted than I am. I think now I'm a bit of an extrovert, but like then, so of course, just like Morenike, it's a way to still be able to express myself without necessarily being out there. But the funny thing is that I still want to go back like into music. I enjoy music a lot, like listening to it and everything, and singing and blah blah blah. So I still want to go into it, but I feel like art is just going to be like that thing forever because again, there's something about just being able to create and like actively seeing that like on paper or like canvas or like sculptures that is just so to me very, very, very special. More than anything else. Yeah.
Thanks so much to you two. Very well-rounded creatives. I'm blown away. Thank you. It's just impressive to see. It's looking like you two lean more into what brought you joy and what you were most that aligned more with your personality. So thank you. And Uche Chidozie, I think it's a comment more than a question, but I'm going to read that out. It says, I never had creative block before because I believe I can create even in my grave. Oh, lovely. Does it mean that my brain is tricking me that I can't stop? I keep creating with dizziness and headache.
If you're creating with dizziness and headache, maybe it means you need to take a break.
Yeah.
Oh no, I
We
feel
need,
you.
we need rest.
It feels so good to love something so much. You feel like you can even create while you're sleeping. And Uche's comment is actually very refreshing because you can read their passion, like how they feel about art and creating. You can feel it from the comments. You can tell that they are very passionate about creating, and I really, really love that. And there's nothing wrong with you if you don't experience creative blocks. But I know that if you are feeling dizzy and you're getting headaches when you're creating, maybe you need to slow it and listen to your body. But aside that, I really admire your passion for creating.
Yeah. There was literally someone again at the like the event we had that was saying something similar. One guy called Isaac that he has just been creating and creating and creating even when he's tired, like he can't stop and everything. And I was just like, again, it's why I feel like another reason why I feel like arts, being an artist is a lot can be a lot more different from like, other like occupations, because art is literally, it's like they inject it into our skins. Like you could check people's bloodstreams and you're seeing like art there, as opposed to doing it maybe just for like the jobs and stuff. People also have like the passion for it, like it's literally like a part of them. So I know that the separating just like art from like your own person and everything can be very difficult to do, because like you love it so much and everything. But just like we said, honestly, listen to your body. Like if you're having headaches and stuff, I know the guilt can also be immense. You want to be creating, you want to be like doing it, you want to be working, but really listen to your body. And I bet you sometimes you don't even know, and I'm not saying it might, I don't know if it is or might not be, but you might not even be tapping into like your best creative work yet because you've not even taken a break to like rest. You might take a break and like rest or like listen to your body, and you see that when you feel refreshed, you're able to even create like better. So again, like great passion, of course, but like please listen to your body. Like you want to be creating for a long time. Not also, a lot of artists get sick. Like it's not even a thing. Like I literally had to start like paying more attention to like my body and like what I'm even consuming, like with my paint and everything. A lot of artists get sick because we overwork ourselves, and it affects even like our health in like the long run. So please listen to your body. Very, very, very important. You have so many years ahead of you. Art is there forever. So please rest sometimes.
And to add to what Chigozie is saying, I don't think we need to wait for our body to shut down before we
Mhm.
do what we should do, right? So
Yes.
I know you love to create, but I think sometimes we should, even when you're feeling all the energy and all the creative juices are just flowing through your veins, like just hold yourself back and rest for a bit. You're not going to lose the inspiration. If you fear that you lose the inspiration, write it down. Write down the
Yeah.
inspiration to the tiniest details, long lashes, tiny lashes. This
Yeah.
person has long nails. Write everything down so you don't forget and take that break. Because we've been seeing some comments from artists saying they can't draw again because their hands or their wrists are stressed and they have to go for I don't know what it's called, but it's some form of therapy, and now their body has forced them to take a long break and they cannot create again. So please don't wait for your body to force you to rest before you rest. As artists, that we're also always sitting down and creating. Take walks, right? Stand up from your chair, get up, take a walk,
Yeah.
right? Dance a bit if you're not, into like walking, or if you're socially awkward. Do some
Mhm.
exercises, do like 10 jumping jacks, then sit back down and then
Yeah.
continue working. Like those tiny, tiny things help with your health as an artist in the long run.
Mhm. I'm sorry, just to even add to that, something you can also do is like you can observe like holidays, like just like every other working person. So consider yourself as like a 9 to 5 worker. All these public holidays you've been having, like we've been having, literally don't do anything. Me, I have a rule during Christmas time. I'm enjoying myself. I literally I've closed for the season. I'm like, it's okay till next year. So well, I'll do like some little like fun things here and there, but like serious work, I'm not taking it on. So you can do things like that, like actively observe like holidays so that you can give yourself like an active break. Yeah.
Thanks, Uche Chidozie, for the question, and thanks for your passion for art. And thanks to Renike and Chigozie for your response and encouraging us to rest. So thanks. I'm looking at the time, we're on the top of the hour, but before we wrap up, do you have any final comments or remarks for us? So for a lot of us, we have a diverse group here. So some of us might not consider ourselves creatives, but one thing I think you two have done a good job of doing is also showing us that we all can be creatives. Even simply writing a journal is creativity. So I guess what's one piece of advice do you have for us to tap into our creativity? Briefly, so that way we don't keep you all here.
To take pressure off yourself to create something sensible. quickly. It doesn't have to make sense. If you want to draw a human and it looks like a potato, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. So don't put yourself under too much pressure to create and for it to make sense. Sometimes maybe just drawing a straight line or drawing a curvy line is all the therapy you need.
Agree. I will say that there is no limit to what you can do as like a human being. Every day, whatever you see yourself as, whatever you want to be, there's nobody can stop you, nobody can beat you. So literally, if you want to be a creative, just start. Like, just do what you feel like doing. Don't let things that people say like get to you. People have a lot of things to say. Society, they will always say things. They will always say, oh, it's bad or whatever. Just whatever you want to do. Because funny enough, some people now that are like making the most waves, they didn't even have like, art education, or they just started their careers like on a whim or whatever. They've been successful. Some people not as successful, but they're happy like what they're creating. So there's really no limit to what you can do. Don't put those limits on yourself. Just do what you want to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the advice. Thank you so much for the wonderful sessions. And thank you for telling us that our blogs, creative blogs, do not define us, that we have to be present, we have to be kind to ourselves, we should rest, no pressure, and that we can do whatever, no limits to whatever we can do. So thank you all so much. And please, if you can give them virtual round of applause, you two were phenomenal. And thanks to for the audience for joining us. You all were amazing. I know it's our Friday. It's Friday. You could be doing something else, but you're here, part of light. So thank you all so much for a wonderful session. We really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
opportunity. This was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Well, we have more sessions. Please do join the rest of the sessions. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.